let me briefly recall that we are now trying to understand Grothendieck ring for general simple algebra. So now G is not only SL2, so any simple Lie algebra. And so we have G, C is a category of finite dimensional representation. And so we have defined some subcategory CL for larger than 1. So let me recall how CL is defined. So we had we already defined a quiver. Infinite quiver. G, so it was one connective component of a quiver whose vertices are parameterized by I. Okay, and so in V was a set of vertices of this quiver, and then we have defined subset VL of V defined by cutting up and down this infinite periodic quiver. Okay, and so so what is CL? So I gave yesterday a definition by specifying which infinite polynomials are allowed for the simple constituent of modules here. Alternatively, in fact, it is generated by a class of fundamental modules. This is what we did for SL2. Maybe I can give this same definition here. So it is a monoidal category. Generated by some fundamental modules, and these fundamental modules are so V, I, Q, I, where I is in the end. Okay, so this VL is a finite set. So I will give an example in a minute. And then it parameterizes a class of fundamental module. And in particular, the Grothendieck ring of this category is again a polynomial ring generated by a finite number of variables, which are the classes of these fundamental modules. So, so this definition is designed to generalize what we explained for SL2. So G SL2, so this is the category as above. So the as above, and then so the L here is a sub corresponds to a sub quiver of our linear infinite quiver, and so the more precisely the set of indices of a sub quiver of this form, and then maybe I can give an example for B2. L equal 2 and B2. So then in this case, so we have a finite quiver of this form. So three vertices on the line corresponding to the short root. So if you remind, for B2 we had 3 columns, 1 for the short root and 2 for the long root. And we have 3 vertices corresponding to the long root, and so maybe I can go the quiver that we have here. If you recall, the quiver for B2 is some kind of periodic extension of this part, but when we cut in the way I explained yesterday, we just have this subquiver. So with 6 vertices, and here the category CL is generated by 6 fundamental modules corresponding to these vertices with the slight shift of the spectral parameter. C2. Okay, 6 fundamental modules. And the Grothendieck ring is a polynomial ring in 6 variables. So this defines some monoidal category. One remark, in fact, is that if we understand that this category CL for all L, then combinatorially we understand the whole Grothendieck ring. Because if you take any simple module, it can be factorized as modules which belong to some categories equivalent to a category CL. So that's a general results for finite dimensional module of quantum affine algebra. So if you understand all simple modules in all these categories CL, then you have another understanding of arbitrary simple module. In fact, the descriptions all categories CL is sufficient Okay, so we have this category. So now we want to define a quiver which will correspond to this category, and then we have a nice candidate here, extracted quiver that we use to define the fundamental modules here. So we define, let's say, so the vertices as a and if you remind what we did for SL2, so we have an extracted quiver, this infinite linear quiver, but with one frozen variable. So here it's the same. We will freeze some variable. So there is a condition with so we will freeze the lower part of the quiver. So formally, in fact, it's freeze if R minus Ri is strictly lower than L. So that's a condition, but you can see on this example how it looks. It means that we will freeze the vertices on each column at the bottom, okay, as we did for SL2. So this defines a quiver with some frozen variables, and so we have a cluster algebra. So in this case, it's a cluster algebra of type A3. Because if you have the frozen variable, and if you want the type, you look at the mutable variable, and the Deakin quiver is of type A3. Okay, so now we have the theorem that you expect, that we had proved with Bernard in 2015, that so there is now it's for any type, so the Grothendieck ring of this category and this cluster algebra. So corresponding to this quiver. And moreover, So the way how this isomorphism is built is by assigning to each of these vertices a class of Kirillov-Reshetikhin modules. So as I explained, the idea was to start with things we knew at the time, which were Kirillov-Reshetikhin modules with T-system. So, our initial seed. In fact, is given by and in fact, but this does not exhaust all Kirillov-Reshetikhin modules in this category. So for example, fundamental modules are all Kirillov-Reshetikhin modules, but they cannot all belong to the same seed. So there is something that could be misleading here. So we took this quiver and we assigned to each vertices a fundamental modules. So this is what we do, what we did to construct the category. But of course, when we want to define the initial seed, we cannot take this collection of fundamental modules because their tensor product will not be simple in general. If you remember the example that we defined previously for SL2, we had these two fundamental modules. They do not belong to the same seed. So after we did this, we take again this quiver and then we assign some Kirillov-Reshetikhin modules with this seed, but not the fundamental modules that we use to build the category. So, however, there are many fundamental modules in this category, and many Kirillov-Reshetikhin modules, and we proved also that all Kirillov-Reshetikhin modules are some of the cluster variables. So all. Are cluster variables. All KR modules in CL. And in fact, it's a part of the proof of this isomorphism. Because when you write this isomorphism, in some sense, you have two inclusions to prove. And so one inclusion, so the fact that the cluster algebra is contained in the Grothendieck ring uses screening operators and Q character theory. And the other inclusion, you have to prove that all generators of this ring belong to the cluster algebra, so that is to say fundamental modules. And to do this, you have to use T-systems and some identified with some distinguished exact sequence in the cluster algebra. So maybe I can give this example for this seed here. I take back this example. Yeah. And so in this case, you have so initial seed. You have already the initial seed for SL2 for any L and for this one. So L equal 2. So on this line you have some Kirillov-Reshetikhin corresponding to the short root. So with some so you remember the Kirillov-Reshetikhin modules are parameterized by the vertex of the Dynkin diagram, a positive integer on the context, on the spectral parameter. So we have to specify the three of them. So here the weight increase, so 1, 2, 3, and the spectral parameter also change. So there is a uniform rule, in fact, to define this initial cluster variable. So this is for this column, and for the two other columns. So we take KR module, but now corresponding to the other node vertex of the diagram. And so the lengths are 1, 1, 2, and the spectral parameter Q minus 2. This is our initial seed in this case. Okay, so you can notice an important point that these are not, again, not only fundamental modules. Okay, so these KR modules are fundamental when this parameter is 1. So here you have 2, and 3, and so on. So this mimics a bit what we have for SL2. And the way how the arrows are arranged, they are arranged so that some of the exchange relations are the T-systems. So, for example, if you mutate here or here, you will get T-systems. So if you have patience and you write the T-system, you can check that it works, in fact, in this example. And tomorrow in the exercise class, you will have an example for SL3. I encourage you to try to do it. Okay, so now you, of course, when you have this, you may wonder what happens for cluster monomials, cluster variables, because I just stated here that some of the cluster variables corresponds to some modules that we know, but of course there are many more modules than KR modules. And so it's much more involved and difficult than for SL2, again, because we do not know how to describe simple modules. So what we conjecture for this, that in fact this is a monoidal categorification, so that corresponds to simple classes. So not bijectively, of course, because here there are some simple modules which are not real. There is a famous counterexample by Bernard for SL4, for example, of a non-real module. Simple modules whose tensor square is not simple. So, however, there is this, and in fact, it was solved. So first by, so it was proved later. So first by Fanchin for 2017 for types. So using some understanding of simple modules related to Nakajima quiver varieties. I said it a bit briefly, but there is analog of Kajanustic algorithm, for example, to describe characters, dimension Q characters of simple modules, but it's true only for AD types. And then, so quite later, so there is a work by Ishimura, and Park. So more recent, which was published in 2024. So they proved it for all types, but with a completely different method. And the method is based on R matrices in this category. So I told you previously that the category is not braided, but it's possible to define degenerated R matrices for any couple of representations. So morphism which goes from V tensor W to W tensor V, that are not isomorphism in general, but still they exist, and they have good functoriality property. And so on, and so their proof is based on many things, but in particular to find study of R matrices and the identification of exchange relation in this cluster algebra in terms of R matrices. A bit, I explained a very small example for SL2 again with these two. If you recall this tensor product of two-dimensional modules. In fact, I wrote this exact sequence categorifying this elementary example, exchange relation, and in some sense, they have a very vast generalization of this, proving that all exchange relations can be realized using degenerate braiding. And they prove it, and in fact, they proved for this seed, our initial seed, but also they obtained many other initial seed in this cluster algebra, and also worked on some sub-modular category. So that's something quite subtle. It's not because you know that there is an ambient cluster algebra structure that you know that some subcategories, sub-modular category, are also modular categorification. And that's something they are working on, and I think continue to work on. Okay. So, however, so this is maybe in terms of quiver a bit complicated because we had to cut the quiver to free variables and so on. And so you may ask, what about the periodic quiver? Is it possible to have some understanding of it? So this is what I want to discuss today because first it's related to interesting algebras, Finkelberg symbolic shifted quantum affine algebras, and it was discussed the talk of Bernard yesterday or 2 days ago. So this is what I want to explain.
Question about this conjecture. So
it's a theorem now.
Okay, theorem. Okay, then theorem, but still was written correct. Yeah. And about the other simple object, we don't have like description.
Well, there are many simple objects that are not real.
Yeah, so the square of them is not.
Yes. So in some sense, what is the current situation? You have simple, which contains real simples. And which contains what we call reachable. So meaning that they correspond to a cluster monomial.
Okay.
So so now you have this inclusion. So of course we know that except for SL2, this is not an equality. But so there is another conjecture that in fact all real simples might correspond to reachable simples, but this seems very difficult to prove, and this approach do not give an answer for it.
But
there is no counterexample. I don't know. Maybe it's not true.
For example, in type A, it's known that it's equal.
No. It's not known. It's not known for SL3. For SL2, you have an equality. Everything is equal for SL2. Mm-hmm. For SL3, you know that this is not equal, but this is open for SL3.
Mm-hmm. And
this is the combinatorics already for SL3 are very, very much complicated.
Did you say SL3 or SL4? I thought Bernard's counterexample was for SL4.
Yes, the original example maybe SL5 even, but we know for SL3.
We already know for SL3.
The next question is, okay, so there are not real simples for SL3, for example, but how many of them is complicated as they are not? It's impossible to study.
There is not a lot. So there is a paper by Shari and Presley in the second half of the 90s where they started to try to give a list of prime modules for SL3. So prime, that would be modules so that you can factorize only simple modules. And they have some kind of partial list, and they got to the conclusion it's quite complicated.
So it's a wild problem.
It's a wild problem. It's not. No. I guess you need some develop some new theory. Okay. As far as I understand, the cluster theory is not enough. But the real modules are already quite interesting, and it's already some progress, I guess, to understand that.
Is it sufficient to just understand simples?
Here, like, is it a CL is a semi-simple category?
Sorry?
Is CL is a semi-simple category? So, like, is it sufficient to just understand simples?
No. It's not semi-simple at all. Then you don't know in decomposable. So there are, it's
So there
very
could be
intricate.
like standard objects, like bigger than simple ones.
So there is, you might, so what is called usually standard modules in this category as cyclic tensor product of fundamental modules. And then the only simples can be realized as a quotient.
So do we know some of the standard objects?
Well, it depends what you mean by standard. So what is called a standard here again is
Like something which has like some universal property that everything becomes quotient.
yes. So you have this notion of Wien module a bit, that you know, like a bit for the current algebra. So there is some kind of analog of it. So some kind of maximal cyclic module generated by some highest weight vector. So there is an analog of this, and it's known to be standard modules in the sense I explained. But well, there are many more indecomposable modules. Okay, so let's keep this question for the future. Maybe some of you can answer it. But I can want to explain something I know, but for a more complicated algebra. But still, sometimes you have to overpass. So. Yeah, so my question, what about the infinite periodic quiver? In fact, there is a nice kind of symmetric understanding of it in terms of shifted complement line algebra. So that's what I want to discuss now. So finite dimensional module again. Maybe tomorrow I discuss the category O, but let's start with finite dimensional modules of so shifted. So this, they were introduced in the framework of study of case-theoretical Coulomb branches. These are variations of quantum affine algebras depending on some additional parameter, which is called shift. So what is a shift? Is a co-weight of G. Integral co-weight. Or weight of the Lagrange dual algebra. So let me explain how it's defined. It's quite simple, in fact. Now you know all the Drinfeld presentations, so and the current, thanks to the lecture. So this co-weight is not necessarily dominant or codominant, so no specific condition. So the idea of the definition, so it's a variation of UQG hat, where we keep the loop generators, but there is some shift in the definition of the current for the analog of Cartan loop generators. So if you recall, we had this. So I don't know if, yes, that's notation I gave previously. So phi I minus of z is some exponential. You add some, I will keep. So some exponential of a formal power series of some analog of group generators. So we go a bit back in the structure of the quantum loop algebra that you know is complicated, as we have seen. So you have this so for the ordinary quantum loop algebra, you have such a formal power series of, so this is some analog, let's say, of HI. So it's a Cartan loop. So this sits inside the quantum affine algebra, and it's a formal power series. And it's quite important because it's used to define the Q character, for example. So this element commute when the central charge is trivial. Again, I explained that when you define Q characters, for instance, or Drinfeld polynomial of a simple modules, you look at the joint spectra of the generators. Okay, so and so these generators appear in the Drinfeld relations of the algebra. And so what we do is that we will shift this formal power series by some power of z, and the power here is given by a multiplicity of the shift, so of the coweight on some fundamental coweight. So, okay, so alpha I is a simple root. G and mu. The multiplicity of mu on a fundamental coweight is alpha A. And so that it makes sense, you will also inline this element here. And that's the only change. That's the only change. So we just shift this series and we keep the same relations. And this is a shifted quantum affine algebra.
Opposite shift on the phi plus?
So you can do both on plus and minus, then you have two shifts. But in fact, one of the results of Finkelberg's value is that the up to isomorphism, the algebra depends only on the sum of the difference of the two shifts. So I will just take one and I will not shift the positive current. So originally, they are interesting because some of their quotients, the truncated shifted quantum affine algebras, are closely related to k-theoretical conventions. This is one original motivation to study them. So what we do now is that we want to look at the representation of this algebra and to see how it can be related to the picture we had previously. So in fact, they have interesting representations here. So the first point, in fact, is that they have, in some cases, finite dimensional modules that we do not see with the ordinary quantum affine algebra. So I would like to start with this. And in fact, if you look at U2, so has finite dimensional representation. In fact, if and only if mu is codominant. So meaning that all the shifts are positive. Okay, so that's a property that I had established. So it means that there are new finite dimensional modules when mu is not 0. So I should have said, of course, that when mu is equal to 0, you recover essentially the ordinary quantum loop algebra. Is essentially UQ.
So they're codominant, does that mean that phi plus and phi minus intersect, or they're equal?
Yes, well, exactly. So when you take positive, so it means that you have more generators. This is a formal power series in Z minus 1. So in the ordinary quantum loop algebra, it starts with an invertible constant loop in term, and then you add some more generators. So it starts with a positive power Z. So in some sense, it's larger. So I don't know if it makes sense, but there are some finite dimensional modules. So for the negative, the opposite, you start with. Okay, so there are some finite dimensional modules. So maybe to understand them, there is also a category O that we will use later. So maybe I can say that for general mu. Mu has. So even if it's not codominant, there are still interesting representations. There will be finite dimensional in general, but there is a category also as a category. So it's defined as usual category O, meaning that you have weight space decomposition with respect to the finite type Cartan. Weight spaces are finite dimensional. And then you have a cone condition, meaning that for a representation in this category O mu, any weight is in a finite union of cones. So that's analog to the classical. For weight space decomposition. So for UQH, so the finite type, which in fact lives inside. This UQH is generated still by the constant term of this phi minus, which are still required to be invertible. So you have a nice category, and in fact it's possible to classify simple objects here. So at this time, we do not require object to be finite length in this category. Something.
The shift version is not any sort of program.
Sorry? Yes, so important, that's a very good question. I'll come back to this later. So individually, it's not a quantum group. So in the sense that it's not a Hopf algebra. For mu equals 0, it's a Hopf algebra. But there is a replacement for it that I explained. But that's a very good question, because if we want to have a Grothendieck ring or study some cluster structure, we need something. But there is. Okay, so what time is it? So let me then there is classification of simples. So the simples. In OMU, so they are parameterized by n tuple, so this time not of Drinfeld polynomials, but by rational fractions. So you have n tuple of rational fractions. So let's this. So and so each psi of z is a rational fraction with complex coefficient. It's regular at 0. So no pole or root at 0. And then what is the connection with the shift is given by the degree. So the degree of this rational fraction is a shift. So it's alpha I of t. So that's yes. That's that I wrote in the same paper. So let me give some examples. So the simplest thing you can do is to take everybody equal to 1 except one polynomial of degree 1. So let's call it's a collection of 1. Then we put one polynomial of degree 1. So let's say in position I a bit. So this pi will be slightly different than the Drinfeld polynomial. So I will explain this later. But so this is done for each vertex of the linking diagram and each complex parameter. So now we wonder what about the representation corresponding to this collection. So if you look at the degree, they are all equal to 0 except this one, which is degree 1. So the corresponding shift, if you look at this, is just a fundamental coweight. So L is a representation of with a shift. Then there is something quite nice which appears is that this representation is of dimension 1. So it's finite dimensional and it's of dimension 1. So one dimensional. So this algebra has a continuous family of non-isomorphic one-dimensional modules. So this is what we call, so it was discussed in the talk of Bernard, so these are called pre-fundamental modules. Pre-fundamental because in some sense they are more fundamental than fundamental. You see that the fundamental can be, the usual fundamental can be expressed in terms of this one. So that's something. That we have here. So of course the fact that the shift is a fundamental coweight is coherent with the statement here that finite dimensional modules come for codominant weight. And of course this one is codominant. So if you take this one, in fact this one is a representation mu q. And this one is infinite dimensional. So that's this is how I got interested in this representation, because in this case, it's the Borel algebra can be the ordinary Borel can be seen as a subalgebra of this one, and this representation stays simple when reduced to this algebra. And this is some algebra I had looked at with Jimbo. In fact, we were a bit, so we had these modules for the Borel, and the action could not be extended for the quantum affine. In some sense, we knew that there were more operators than it. Yes, we could not really understand how it's related to the quantum affine. And in fact, the answer is not the quantum affine, but it's shifted. So that's okay. And then, of course, so now you have also so you can also see the ordinary fundamentals, and then they correspond to this function that we have defined already. So if you take, remember these rational fractions appeared when we defined Drinfeld polynomials and so on. So that's a collection of rational fraction of degree 0, and this one corresponds to fundamental. You have a question? Yeah.
Yes. So the Boresa part is independent on the co-weight.
Sorry, the?
UQB hat is the Boresa part of U, so of any shifted.
No. It's the Borel. It's not the loop Borel. So it's not you. Of Sasha, you had you. So this is not this algebra. So that's the Borel in the sense of Drinfeld-Gibaud. So generated by the EI.
Yes.
So this one, in fact, it's a subalgebra of mu if mu is anti-codominant. In this case, you have such an embedding, and in fact, all the simple modules here reduce to a simple module. But no. In fact, for example, if you look at this one-dimensional module, it's not a representation of the Borel. So the Borel algebra does not have non-trivial one-dimensional modules. So that's the way to do it. This kind of finite-dimensional modules, yes, it's kind of new things phenomenon which appears for shifted quantum groups. They also appear for shifted Youngans, for example.
When you say anti-codominant, you mean alpha I of mu is less or equal than 0, or
Yes.
less strict? Okay, yes.
So you have some codominant, anti-codominant, and many. So these are just some examples of representation. But of course, there are many more. And okay, so now the categories. So I will keep the notation of the Bernard of Tuesday. So and to your question, so now we will work with. We have to pack together all these quantum groups in order to define a multiplicative structure. So each of this category mu is an abelian category. It has a Grothendieck group, and so we'll take all of them. So lambda is the integral co-weight lattice. So we look all of them. And so this will contain the finite dimensional modules. So these are finite dimensional modules, but now for all shifted quantum groups. So it will be sum of C and H mu. And in fact, now, as we have seen, only codominant co-weight appear here. Okay. And of course, this contains the Grothendieck ring that we have discussed previously of finite dimensional module for the ordinary quantum group. Quantum loop. And so we will do some restriction here in order to handle with the cluster algebra, which is kind of discrete object. So we will restrict to psi here, to rational fractions where the spectral parameters, so the zeros and poles, are power of q. Okay. So usually this is denoted by d here. Index simple constituents, so the side. So we use only help side with poles. So again, it's not a very strong restriction when you want to understand the whole category, because if you understand these categories, you can understand the description, the Grothendieck ring of the whole category. So that's something known. So for the moment, these are just groups. Discussed remark. So each is not a algebra. Oh, là, il y a algebra. Except for mu equal 0. But so we had in the course of Sasha the topological coproduct. And in fact, this topological coproduct makes sense here, because the relations are the same. So this is again, it's not the same coproducts that I used for UQLG, so that's maybe you have some explanation I have for this coproduct. So topological coproduct. Makes sense. So what you have to take different various shifts. So you take two shifts you have. You complete so as we explained already, I will not explain again. And then the shift will be added. So you have I think Duncan mentioned that this can be used to do some fusion product of representation in the quantum theoretical case. The same works in the shifted. So using this, so a priori it's topological, so it's you may have problems to make tensor product of representation, but there is a way to use it to define a ring structure here on all. In fact, induces ring structure. So all these rings above. And in particular, if you look at this, so it will, so if you take two Grothendieck groups, so UQZ, mu, you get to the category O, but where the shift have been added, because here you start with UQ. You take a simple module here, simple module here, and you produce a simple module of this algebra. And then, so you get a multiplication, and it has the same property as the Grothendieck ring, meaning that the constant structure are positive on the basis. Okay, so I think I started a bit late. So,
This ring structure, did you get infinite sums because of the...
So that's again a great question. So a priori, yes, you don't know, but recently with the Duafeng Zhang, we proved that infinite length modules are preserved by the product. So, but it's not something obvious. We proved with Duafeng that we formulate like this: finite length modules are preserved by fusion product. Finite length.
it's hold for Katsumori-G?
We proved it for finite type G. Yes. So for shifted quantum affine algebra. So we use R matrices, truncations. So we did not consider it, but I would be, I don't know.
Is it known whether this product on the K-ring is the same one that you get from the Trimford Jumbo from Sasha's work?
Yes, it's compatible with Q characters.
Yeah, okay.
So you know.
But it, as in their one is.
So you have a Q yeah, everything is
Yeah,
compatible. You have Q characters, and if you restrict to this ring of Grothendieck ring of usual representation, then it's what you know.
Well, it's not the same conoidal structure, just the composition factors are the same, right?
And at the level of Grothendieck ring, it's the same. Yes, but if you go to the categorical level,
Yeah.
it's not the same. You know. If you take two simple modules and you take the fusion product, for example, it will be always cyclic, generated by the tensor product of highest weight. And as you know, for the ordinary coproduct, it's not. So categorically, it's different, but it induces the same.
So this theorem with Huafeng is proved on the level of categories or on the Grothendieck?
Well, there is a state. It uses the category, but well, in fact, the statement for the category reduces to the Grothendieck ring. It's a property of being finite length. That's something that you detect on the class in the Grothendieck group. So that's the same. Okay, so maybe I can finish with a theorem. So the theorem for this category here, and so maybe this is what you expect, but the theorem is that if you take this Grothendieck ring, it's isomorphic to the cluster algebra with our infinite quiver, periodic quiver. And so the cluster monomials. So maybe I can say first. So the initial seed is given only by this one-dimensional prefundamental modulus. So you have an initial seed of one-dimensional, for which it's clear that the fusion product or tensor product are simple because it's only one-dimensional. So it's only one-dimensional. And the cluster monomials are embedded in the simple classes. So this to attribute correctly, this statement is, I say, compilation of some work that we did with Bernard for the Borel algebra, and then the cluster monomial property relies heavily on the paper of Kashiwara-Kim on PASH, and then it's reformulated in terms of shifted quantum group. So that's how it can be stated. And so maybe I can give the example for SL2. So recall that you had this positive fundamental. Let's denote it by IA. So this And the initial seed for SL2 is very simple, so it's infinite linear quiver. And we take this fundamental, so L1, LQ minus 2, LQ2. And that's it. So that's the initial seed for SL2. So one-dimensional. So it looks very symmetric and simple, but then when you start to do mutation, then you will get higher dimension modules, in particular two-dimensional modules, fundamental modules that you had for the ordinary quantum affine algebra. So you may also write it for maybe just finish like this for SL3. And this is also very, in some sense, it's easier to state that. So this is. And you have again a periodicity with this one. That's the initial seed for SL3. Now you can guess for other types. It's always kind similar. Stop here for today, and we discuss more.